Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason. That's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you by comicbookclick.com. As always, I am never alone. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
We're here in the building, good sir. Cloudus Maximus on this episode of Moon Knight.
Now, I hope you guys could hear that, because if you guys can't, then that voice must be in my head. And if that voice is in my head, how do I know which one of us is real? We'll be dealing with all of that in a conversation about Moon Knight, what is quite possibly my favorite Disney Plus show. And I know I already
That's
hear
a
people
big
already
stamp.
getting upset. They're getting upset,
That's
bro.
a big stamp
A lot of people getting upset
coming
already,
from
man.
you, sir.
When I ask people, I think WandaVision and Loki are roughly up there. There's some people who really bang hard
I
for
was gonna
Falcon
say
Winter
your
Soldier.
favorite Disney Plus show
Yeah.
out of the Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what I was looking for in it, like I really dug. I think maybe second is Hawkeye, possibly. What's this looking for like for you? I guess instead of like just a ranking system, how are you liking these shows that they've been coming out with?
It's funny because I don't have it in me right now to like be put in a position to pick of my favorite children.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
can see that.
or grandchildren, what
Right.
have you. You know, but I'm enjoying it, man. I'm enjoying the ride.
Yeah. I am so surprised. Like, it's one of those things where comic books in general work better in TV because of the episodic nature of comics. Some of these runs go on forever,
That's
and
true.
you need episodes as opposed to trying to do all these stories in a movie. I think things like the Dark Phoenix saga work way better as episode installments that build up to a big, event than just trying to get the character there in one movie. As we've seen with multiverse, sometimes you gotta jump through some hoops to get them to where you gotta get them. But imagine if they didn't have WandaVision. Imagine if Multiverse of Madness was straight off of Endgame, and we were supposed to just know from the pain of Vision
The
or
gaps,
whatever.
yeah.
Right. Like, I love that we have these shows in the middle to kind of color things. But what I'm realizing is that some of them are like almost scared to have stronger ties to the overarching MCU. And so I think this show works best because it doesn't really need any. It doesn't really, I'm never watching this and going, oh, I'm waiting for the cameo, or I'm waiting for, where does this lead into the, because I'm a bit upset. Like, Loki's a year ago. We're still nowhere closer to finding out what happened once they broke those things there. I'm not really sure what happened in No Way Home. And, we might be going back to the Dark Dimension after Multiverse of Madness, but we're not getting. As somebody who like reads the comments, I want definitive answers to tell me where we're going. And this was a break from that, in my opinion. As somebody who I am jumping to the conclusion is unfamiliar with the character, did you know much about Mooney? I
did not. So I went in there completely marking with Mark,
Yeah. You went in there completely dry in the sense that
not completely. I know of Moon Knight.
Yeah, I think we've all played Marvel vs. Capcom on occasion, or seen the memes of the Dracula, give me your money, you big dork. But
random stuff go.
Yes, random bullshit go. But I guess what I wanted to ask is, were you aware of the dissociative identity disorder?
I didn't know how I don't want to say crazy, but you know how wild
intense,
it is, how wild it was.
Yeah.
How wild it is. So, and I kind of enjoyed that in the series.
Definitely. So just a little homework off the top. Moon Knight is an American television miniseries created by Jeremy Slater for the streaming service Disney Plus, based on the Marvel Comics, featuring the character of the same name. It's the sixth television series in the MCU to be produced by Marvel Studios, showing continuity with films of the franchise. Slater serves as head writer, with Mohamed Diab, I hope I'm saying that right, leading to direct the team. Diab is my man's. So yeah. I don't know if you have been following, but he's been all over social media. Like, he loves this show. He loves promoting this show. He has a picture of his daughter doing the Scarlet Scarab pose,
Ooh,
saying, "Wow, she has hair like me."
nice.
And he had wrote in his native language that she had always wanted to straighten her hair because she said that Disney princesses had their hair straightened.
Straight.
You know, they there was never anyone that looked like her with curly, I believe they're Egyptian hair, and yeah, so he created one. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Hmm.
he just made it. Then he went out and he got on Wonder Woman
Hmm.
1984, and I even want to say Black Adam, of being like, yo, all these movies be acting like they going to Egypt. They're not going to Egypt. Like, that's, I see Spain in some of these scenes. I see, you know, all these other. He basically was he basically was very vocal about how he feels that Hollywood portrays Egypt the same way it's always been portrayed since the
Hmm.
16 whatever the hell, you know, like it's never evolved. There's never been clubs or people in Moon Knight though.
Just
We see
pyramids, and
in
you
Moon Knight we
go.
see streets, right?
Hmm.
We see streets, you see people walking up and down, we see people of different ethnicities and occupations. You know, he really was trying to there's Egyptian bangers in this, but there's some music in this. I'm like,
Hmm.
yo, let me find out. I need to go to Egypt real quick. So that's why I say he's my man's. And then Shang-Chi uh, got on him, the actor who plays him, when it was like, oh, the Mandarin you wrote for Arthur Harrow's terrible.
Hmm.
And I thought with all the energy he had been given, like Wonder Woman, all that stuff like that, he was gonna come back hard. And he was like, I'm sorry. I completely understand because I get it when they butcher Egyptian and other stuff. So don't even worry about it.
Got it covered.
We'll work better on it next time. And I'm like, damn, yeah, so fucking cool. So this series is heavily influenced by the Jeff Lemire run of the comic, which we had covered a couple of episodes ago. I believe it was still this year. And while not taking everything from it, there was definitely some moments, and we'll talk about them as they come. Um, I guess right now is the best time to tell everybody this is going to be a spoiler-filled episode for
Hmm.
all things Moon Knight, so prepare to get something spoiled. I'm going to jump around. I'm going to talk about basically everything that happens, but I'm going to jump around because that's just how I'm feeling today. Feeling like there's a lot of voices in the head, and we got to get them all in order.
Hmm.
Um, but what I will say was in dealing with the absolute madness, and I would recommend that you try to read that story if you can, because it does kind of bring up how terrifying it must be to live and not trust yourself, not know, you know, if you fall asleep whether or not you're going to wake up somewhere
Hmm.
different and all that other kind of stuff. So I always thought that super cool in the comic, and they take it crazy in the show. But I wanted to bring up first and foremost the first person we meet in this series, the first person we see take a drink from a glass, smash that glass, place it inside his chancletas, and then walk
Hmm.
around,
I was like, oh, what's he doing? This is a perfectly good chunk of.
walk around all crazy. Um, Arthur Harrow, Ethan Hawke as Arthur Harrow. I love that Ethan Hawke's old enough now to be the old guy. Like he was always the young. He's the he's Training Day, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So to go from that, where he's the rookie of that, to come to here, I thought was pretty cool to see him as like, because this guy doesn't raise a voice, right?
Uh-uh.
Arthur Harrow never yells. Arthur Harrow never like. It's all very in a calm, cool manner. He's lived his life this way. I guess that's how you live when you're in constant pain
Real
and stuff like
smooth,
that.
Ethan.
Yeah, and I thought he really killed it as a villain. I think we recently posted some video that he was talking about like Marvel movies aren't that great or whatever, but he's
Right,
now
yeah.
found his
That's been
calling.
going around. I've seen that.
Yeah, it happens. The second person we introduce, we hear the song "A Man Without Love" to introduce us to our boy. And listen, I'll tell you this. This is what I want to tell the people first and foremost when it comes to Moon Knight. I think this might be the most important thing I say regards to the show. This is probably one of the most rewarding shows to watch twice because
Hmm.
when you go through the first time, you know almost nothing. When you go through the
Right.
second time with the knowledge that you have,
Hmm.
it's more messed up, it's more funny, and it's more tragic. Um, We see Stephen Grant played by Oscar Isaac. Bro, you were born to play this role. So sorry about Apocalypse. I know how that
I
went.
was about to say, oh man, Apocalypse.
So sorry about Apocalypse. Born to play this role. Um, I remember early on being like British because Stephen Grant in the comic isn't British. They're all
Uh-huh.
none of them are of different ethnicities. They're all the same. No offense, white man. So I thought that him doing different accents was a bit funny. But bro, is Stephen Grant not his Clark Kent? That's totally his Clark, right? Like that's totally his. And the accent is bad, but almost bad on purpose, right? Because he got it from a film, as we'll go on later on
To find out,
to
yeah,
uncover. Like
that was crazy.
it's not supposed to be good because
Uh-huh.
he's kind of made it up. But we see him wake up confused in his apartment, his legs shackled to a nearby pole. That's all great stuff, right?
Hmm.
That's how everyone wakes up. He undoes his harness. He removes the tape on his door that he's been placing. We see a huge pile of this tape, so we know he's doing it every day. And feeds his one finned fish, Gus. Um, and you know what he's doing while he's talking to while he's feeding his fish? He's talking to his mother on the phone, bro.
Talking to his mom. His
Talking to my
mom.
mom. Hey, mom. And he's like, "Thank you for the postcard." And the postcards are from the gift shop because no one's sending him
Nope.
postcards.
He's sending him to himself, bro.
He seems incredibly tired, right? And just like in a frantic mindset from the beginning. Um, what what were you getting? What kind of vibes were you getting from that when you saw like that he's taping up the door and all this other stuff?
I was like, oh, something's going on right off the bat. Who, what, where, and why.
Yeah,
Um, when he was on the, first of all, he got up and he got up exhausted. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Already beaten up. So he's been at this for a little while. And everybody looked like he's been at it for a while. You know?
I also love that song, by the way. If you watch the show, you know the song I'm talking about. Every day I wake up, then I start to break up. Lonely as a man without love. And so there's a moment, bro, in this pilot that's just, and we'll talk about it. But um, we see that we're in London. He heads to work at a museum, although he seems incredibly knowledgeable in all things. Like he's very smart about
Hmm.
Egyptian stuff. His boss doesn't respect him and think he's like kind of a weirdo, unreliable guy. Um, his coworker walks up asking him about a date that he doesn't remember asking her for, and they're going to a steakhouse and he's vegan, so he's like, I don't know what's going on here. He talks to a old man. There's a human statue, and he's like,
Gold man.
Gold man, and he basically
Gold
tells him
man.
like, sometimes I go to sleep, and when I woke up, I'm not where I was sleeping.
I feel like I
Things a
got hit
little,
by a bus.
yeah, it's a little weird. Um, he admits to having issues when he sleeps, and later we still see him try to do his best to stay awake. Like he goes out of his way to like listen to like a podcast or something that's like
Hmm.
how to stay awake. This fails. He goes to sleep. What did you think when he woke up with a broken jaw
That was
in the
great. I was just gonna
grass?
mention he wakes up all busted. Oh my god.
It's
And then
just like,
that's the first time we hear Conchu too.
yes, it is because he's being chased by some men while a voice in his head berates him and
And you
tells him
would
to.
think, and you would think like he'd be close to like the city and stuff like that. Nah, he's
How long
deep
has
wherever
he
the hell he's
gone?
at. There's
How
nothing
did
but
he get
hills,
there?
grass,
And people are
mountains in
after
the
him, so he's
distance.
obviously done something that
Uh huh.
he doesn't remember doing. And this is the first time we hear about Mark because we hear a voice say, "Give the body back to Mark." As he reaches into his pocket, he finds a gold scarab, but quickly escapes his pursuers. His escape leads him right to Arrow. Arrow's like doing like a town square murder thing, right? Where he's like, everybody come around. And he claims to have been given a fraction of the power of the Egyptian god of judgment, Amit, and he has a tattoo of scales that when he holds a person's hands, it shifts to let us know if Amit deems them good or bad. If they're good, nothing happens. If they're bad, like the life force gets sucked out of them and then they die right there on the spot. But everyone who's doing this is like a volunteer. He's like in his compound, like these are his people. So everybody's super down. They see him like a prophet. But I like that he hides in the group, and then Harrow tells says something like one of his commands in the language, and they all take a knee. A knee.
And then it's just him standing up.
Oh shit! It was his accent, and then like, oh no, it's not me. I'm just Steven from the gift shop. Uh,
I don't know.
I don't
I
know. I
don't
don't want
know.
this. You can have it. I don't want it.
And
So
his hands just won't open. Oh,
yeah,
that's
so there. Yeah, Steven unwittingly outs himself, although he doesn't remember taking the item. But when he tries to give it back to Harrow, his arm just pulls away. People were getting definite Venom vibes, where Venom was controlling the body and kind of jerking
mhm.
it around. Arthur gets frustrated and orders his men to take it from him by force, but Steven blacks out. And when he comes to, all of Harrow's men are dead, and he's covered in blood. At this point, are you kind of sussing out what's going on here?
Mhm. I was
Yeah.
like, to be honest, I was just upset I didn't get to see none of it.
What? But like considering Disney's rating, what a really cool way to kind of
Right?
do
Yeah,
things
yeah,
without
yeah. That
doing
was
them,
kind
right?
of to shift that over. I thought that was pretty cool.
Because there are
I mean,
instances where this is.
and then evidently it's up to me.
Oh yeah, yeah,
you know?
and that there's a lot of blood in this show.
Yeah,
Like I said,
yeah.
he has the scarab in his hand; it's drenched in blood.
Mhm.
And yeah, again, just blacks out. Um, he has the scarab in his hand. He ends up trying to run away. All the men are dead. He bounces. Harrow
Gets
sends his
into the
men
truck.
after him. Goes in the
Yeah.
cupcake truck. Blacks out again. Men are dead in his van. And he has a gun in his hand. He don't know what the hell's going on. He goes to stop the men with guns. Aims. The guns get aimed at him. A bunch of logs fall down, and then he wakes up. This was Chef's kiss, because not only does he wake up, but the song plays again,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
and everyone, including Steven, is led to believe, what a crazy dream. Wow, all that felt so real and was wild crazy, but he's still here. His leg is still
Mhm.
chained up. So I guess it was all a dream. When the
Just
music
another
comes
day.
back in and he wakes up and starts to laugh because he's like, oh, whew, I was so stressed. I was like, this is my show because
Mhm.
somebody about to find out the fucking hard way. Um, so all seems well until he notices his fish has two fins. He goes to the pet shop, and the pet store owner keeps telling him that he came in yesterday looking for a one fin fish, and she already told him she don't have no handicap animals that she's selling. He realizes he's late for his date, so he gets ready and he goes to the restaurant, but realizes after calling his date that he's actually 2 full days late.
Late.
2 days. He lost
That was
2 days.
crazy. After that, bro, yo, let me tell you something. After that, oh my, I felt, bro, I felt lost. I felt
Right.
lost. I started looking around like, what?
But there's a beautiful moment in here as well, right? Because as this is
Uh-huh.
going on, where he finds out he lost the 2 days, she hangs up the phone on him. The waiter comes up to him, asks him what he wants to eat, and he's kind of like brushing him off because it's
Uh-huh.
all setting in on him. Like,
Yeah.
I lost 2 days. How did I lose 2 days? This is all getting worse. What the hell is going on? And he starts to like cry behind
Hmm.
his eye. Like he doesn't sniffle and but like the guy's telling him about the stakes, and he's like, that's the last thing he's fucking thinking about. He's like, something is wrong with me.
Hmm.
Something is really fucking wrong with me. And he's killing it. Oscar Isaac in this, just murdering it. Um, so uh, what does he do after he comes off of the date? Calls his mom. Oh, mom, it went great. I want you to meet her. She loved the chocolates and the flowers. It was a great idea. And I'm like, bro. Again on the rewatch, I'm like, bro,
I'm
this
like,
is so
oh,
fucking. This is
what is
terrible.
what is happening? I
Terrible.
still felt lost after that. I wouldn't be able to call nobody, bro.
And lying to his mother, seemingly,
Uh-huh.
right? Because he didn't tell her the
Yeah.
truth about the date. Depressed, that night he stays home and notices some scratch marks on the floor indicating the movement of furniture.
Mhm.
Further investigation shows Steven a hidden cubby with a key to his storage locker and a cell phone. He looks through the phone and sees multiple missed calls from a Layla and then gets an actual call from her. He picks up and she seems happy he's alive, but strangely calls him Mark. Before she could answer why She called him Mark. She hangs up. Suddenly, a voice in his head calls to him, and he sees his reflection in the mirror speaking to him, urging him to stop looking into it. He starts to see things like the light flickering and him being chased by an enormous mummy with a skull of a bird who just appears to be an old lady. One jump scare later, Stephen wakes up on the back of a bus, seeing both the mummy figure and Harrow, proving his dream with the scarab was real. Again, another like
I felt crazy after, dude. Like the first, oh my god, like I felt they took the first couple episodes that way, like being that it was brand new and stuff,
yeah.
just like soaking it in. The first, oh dude, you know how lost I felt.
So did it try your patience? Did you ever consider not like I don't get
No,
this? I'm not.
like I was I felt like I was freaking going through it just like Mark. Like I felt so lost. Like, oh my god, like what the hell is happening?
Yeah. They do a great job of making you feel as disoriented as Steven.
Yeah, bro.
You know?
I was stressed too. I'm just, I was, I'm looking around at the rest of the room because I'm watching, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my wife, and I'm looking around like,
They're looking at
dude,
you for answers.
I'm looking at my brother-in-law like, and he's looking at me like, what the hell? I feel so lost. I need
I'm telling you.
answers.
Harrow and his men corner Stephen in the museum looking for the scarab, but he claims not to have it. Great thing. He's like, I'm Amit. I'm her avatar.
Hmm.
Oh, the blue people. No,
Hmm.
no, no, no. Her avatar. I love the anime. No, bro. Yo, he's so great. He goes, I eat one steak. He thought because he ate steak that he was tripping. So Harrow seems to have an idea of what Steven is going through. Did that bug you out when he was like, does it bother the voices in your head constantly?
I
You
was like,
know,
I knew it. Something fishy was happening. Somebody had to put something on.
he
You know.
knows some juju, right? Some bad
Yep.
juju. Maybe he knows what's going on with it. He tries to read his scales, but they aren't balanced. Steven then just runs off. I went back to see the scene if that's exactly what happens. As soon as he says like, "There's chaos in you," Steven just runs away. And
Out of here.
later that night in the museum, he's chased down by a jackal, by an Egyptian jackal in the museum at night. It's terrifying. He ends up getting into a bathroom, and this is like one of the most fire scenes I think in
Hmm.
Marvel history, maybe.
The talk in the mirror and stuff.
And just the shaking and the
Yeah.
color of the lights, and no, you just need to give me calm down, give me control. I can save us. That line, I can save us. Just give me control. Um, Steven eventually relinquishes control and we see bandages cover him, but then the beast leaps on him. So we're like, oh my god, I guess that's a wrap. He didn't get to get control in time.
I thought
Off
this.
screen,
I thought they said it was going to be 6 episodes.
yeah, it's just a credit. Off screen, we hear the cries of agony, and we see a what? No, we see. Oh, sorry. We see the cries of agony. We see a sink get thrown, and then we see a white figure pummeling seemingly pummeling the jackal to death. Before we get our reveal of the Moon Knight, what'd you think of the outfit? What'd you think of
I,
this
I
reveal?
thought the intro was fire, bro.
Yeah,
I thought the intro was fire. I went in expecting him to have hands, and when it comes to the shows, I expect a certain level of hands.
that's fair.
But it kind of went over my expectations as far as hands go, and
Yeah,
and you know, and if you're gonna have that, and all that matters is the way you dressed it. Ah, man, that was just awesome, bro.
I think it was almost perfect introducing Steven first because when you see Mark for the first time in the
Yeah.
reflection, he's so calm and he's
Hmm.
so sure. He even stands more authoritative. So in that moment, you're like, yeah, just get. He's seen that guy
Yeah,
seems like he
for
knows
real.
what
Yeah,
he's talking
just
about.
give it to him.
Yeah,
Just do it. Do
whatever
it.
it
I
is,
know
just
you.
give it.
Yeah, just do it. And just do
So
it.
I was definitely
That was me. I
having.
was like, just do it. Give it a freaking control. Stop talking.
Now I've also heard from some people that they were annoyed with old Stevie after a
Nah,
bit.
why?
I
Why? I would like
never
to
got
hear that.
annoyed with him. I think
Me
people
either.
expected it to be more of a badass,
I feel
like
like
just Mark
I
centric
feel
kind
like
of thing.
I feel like it. Not that it's necessary, but I feel like it balances the scales and the in the character, you know.
What, especially when we only thought there were two scales to
But then
balance.
I was just about to say, but then when you get to the end, you don't know what the hell to do.
And I gotta pick. I got something to pick your brain about with that. So
All right,
we'll get there when we get there.
yeah, we get to there. Yeah,
Next morning, Stephen with a V wakes up, chained to the bed, but he remembers that weird night in the bathroom. Goes to the bathroom of the. No, he goes to his own bathroom. Tries to get Mark to come out of the mirror. Doesn't work. Goes back to the National Art Gallery, his job, and he sees that things are barricaded. And the guy's like, "Yeah, something happened with the piping." He's like, "No, no, no! Show me the security footage, bro. I can show you what happened. I was there." And he looks, and no Jackal. It's just
no,
him running
nothing.
around like a crazy man. And then he's like, "Oh, but wait till I come out." And then we see him come out, and he's like, "Yeah, bro, look, it's you." And you could just tell from the look on his face, it's not Steven. And even Steven
Yeah,
says, "That's not me." And for the first time, he has the kind of epiphany that something's been using his body in a bit, like, and how do you deal with that kind of truth? Very, very odd. So because no one else was there, they basically fire him, and they're like, you need to,
it's over, bro.
not only that, but they're like, you need to give in your name tag. He's petty.
The museum. Psh, I'm gonna
I
go
thought they,
throw
I
it in
thought
the
they were talking
pit.
about the scarab. I thought he was gonna, cause he's like, do you have anything on the from the museum on your person? I thought you were gonna end up
Uh-huh.
revealing the scarab and get in trouble for all that shit. But nope. He but
His security guard friend could have held him down a little bit more. I feel like he just didn't care.
yeah. And because he had the key to the storage box, he's like, all right, I'm just gonna go see what's going on with here. He finds the storage unit after looking at it a couple places. It has a military cot, a couple of supply crates, a bag full of guns, money, and just like everything a bad person would have, including the golden scarab. And we see an American passport with the name Mark Spector. So now we have a first and last name, Stephen Grant, Mark Spector. And Mark Spector seemingly looks just like Stephen Grant. So what is going on? He touches the scarab and it moves. And it starts to point to a mirror, and Grant sees his reflection, Mark, and Mark is like, "Hey, I love this is why I love this show because Mark's like, listen, listen, like just do what I say, and I'll explain it all to you." He's like, "No, no, no, only you should explain it to me now." And he goes, "All right, I'm the avatar of Khonshu." Like he just puts it out. He's like, "I'm the avatar of Khonshu, and because like you're with me, that kind of makes you his avatar too, bro. So like, we just
Get
gotta
with the
do this.
program.
Yeah, we just gotta do this." Um, and he's like, "We made a deal, and the deal means you gotta like take the back seat, bro. So and fucking homeboy is not happy with that at all. At one point, he's like, "You know what? I'm just gonna take all this stuff, this bag full of illegal shit, and get myself arrested, and then I won't have nothing to worry
That's
about.
it.
No
Yep.
bodies, whatever. I'll be locked up." So he runs out of the unit, but seemingly Khonshu follows him. This big, scary, 12-foot tall mummy with a bird skull. What do you think of this scene of him running through, like the running through the storage facility with the lights and Conchu and all that kind of stuff there?
I thought that was dope. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they
And
they
popping up
find
and yeah.
they great ways to deal with. And again, we're still in a world where it's like, is any of this real?
Mhm.
You know, just because he sees it, we saw him see the jackal. So what, is any of this stuff real? And I love that Conchu comes out right as Steven's like, I quit, because he's like, well, I didn't hire you, so bring that shit back because I didn't hire you. Um, he runs out of the facility. He's almost run over by Layla El Faloi. Said that very wrong, so I'm gonna call her Layla moving forward. Also, she is played by May Callum Moe. Yeah, I might have said that wrong as well. Great actress though. Um, so it turns out Layla is Mark's wife. Of all things. So Steven now knows somebody who's married to somebody who looks just like him and seemingly can talk to him in mirrors. Very, very weird stuff. But they're not going to be married for much longer because they're getting a divorce. Steven talks to Layla, who thinks that she's talking to Mark. She begins to get both confused and frustrated because Steven's like, I don't know you. There's something incredibly tragic because Steven is being 100% honest. He
Uh,
doesn't know her.
yeah, he doesn't know.
And she seemingly is getting more and more hurt as he admits, like, he doesn't know her name, he didn't know they were married, he didn't know about the scarab, he didn't know about the divorce. And at one point, he says something like, "Listen, you seem very lovely, and Mark's a bit of a prat, but like, I really don't know you, and I'm sorry that I don't." And I'm like, "You're like, like he's such a fucking
That's yeah. That
sweetheart."
kind of that sucked. Yeah.
Like that was such an honest thing to say, and he didn't have to because he didn't know this woman again. He doesn't know her. He didn't have to say anything. But he's like, "I need your help, please." They find the scarab.
Because
She's like, "What
everybody
the?"
knows more than the Mark.
Oh, of
I
course.
mean, more than Steven.
Uh, all of a sudden, cops come, and I love that he's like, "They come in because I broke the toilet." He's like, "No, that's not why they're here, bro." Layla manages to escape with the scarab, ninja style, hanging out outside. They find Spectre's ID. They're like, "Okay, you're a fake. You must be doing something illegal." So they arrest him. In the car, they do their research and they're like, "Oh, bro, according to this, Mark Spector lined up a bunch of archaeologists and shot them executioner style. So you're a bad man." And he's like, "I would never do that." And then they're like, then they just stop. Like they don't go to a jail. They just stop the car and get out. And he's like, "You're not taking me to a prison?" And nope, they were taking him to Harrow this entire time. And that's what the entire neighborhood is full of Harrow's people. They all got the tattoos. It's all weird. He takes them kind of like on a tour. That guy grows tomatoes. That guy makes soup, kind of stuff. Um, but I love that he's like, "You think Conchu chose you because you're kind of broken, like you're kind of fucked up, or do you think whatever?" And I love that this is the part where I think even my expectations kind of got thrown because Arthur Harrow is not a huge comic book character. He's also not in that run that we read that's very closely related to this. Khonshu, one could argue, is the main villain of the story that we read, and the ultimate lesson that you learn is that he's always trying to. It's always going to be his way. Even if
Mhm.
Mark tries to fight for freedom, Khonshu will find some sneaky ass way to still take it from him, which we kind of get in this as well. But the addition of Harrow kind of changes things because Harrow's like, "Oh, you know, like what is he telling you now?" And Kyle just like, "Kill him." He's like, "Is he telling you to kill me?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "You don't have to listen to everything that he says." And then like you see like a fucking fruit cart get tossed over, and he's like, "That's all he can do. All he can do is throw tantrums like a kid, like without you actually." And now you can see why Mark/Steven is so important to him because
Mhm.
with all these powers of a god, the only things that he can do on a mortal plane is like throw some wind and knock some things over.
Through
So
some sand.
yeah, throw a bit of sand. Um Eventually Harrow reveals that he was Khonshu's first avatar, which I thought that was a big deal. I don't know about first
Mhm.
avatar. He was his avatar first. And he believes the difference between a cure and a poison is just the dosage, and sometimes you have to cut off a limb so that the rest of the body is good. And he's like, "Oh yeah, but you're talking about killing children. Like a children is not a diseased limb." By the way, if anyone's from the UK and you're offended by this, I'm so sorry. This is my impression of Stephen Grant's impression of a British person. But I love that he's like, "Thanks for the soup and everything, but I don't think I'm down for the rest of this."
Yep. Time to go.
And they're like, "No, well, give me the freaking scarab. Give me the scarab. Give me the scarab." And Layla shows up. She's like, "I got the scarab." And they manage to run out of there. And then Layla's like, "Summon the suit. Summon the suit. Just bring the suit back out." And he's like, "I don't,
What
I
about
don't
the
know it."
soup?
Yeah, yeah, that's what he
The
says. The
soup.
soup, the soup. But there's a moment there where she's holding him, and she's like, "Listen, you can do it, whatever." And he's like, "I can't," and she doesn't fight him. She
Mhm.
says, "Okay, okay, we'll find another way," because that was a broken man. Like he's sitting
Yeah.
there, like, "I don't know what you're talking about, and I can't do it." And I'm like, "Oh, Steven, you're
I
breaking my
can't get
heart."
the soup.
Yeah, you're breaking my heart. But they summon a jackal, send them after Steven, and he eventually the jackal jumps on him and knocks him out of a window. And he's thinking to himself, "Summon the suit, summon the suit, summon the suit." Boom, superhero landing. but then he falls over, and it's not the Moon Knight suit; it's the
Hmm.
Mister Knight suit.
I thought that
Um,
was cool. I was like, oh, that's cool.
and he is like, "Well, I thought this is what you wanted, a suit." Like Aaron's talking about a suit. He gets kind of cocky in the suit, kind of like boxing with the
Even with
jacket and
the
stuff like
V.
that. But eventually, kind of gets his ass whipped, and then he's like, "You know what, Mark, you can have the body." Gives Mark the body. Mark spikes like a football this jackal onto like a
Uh-huh.
church spire. And again,
Gene.
this is not a regular, like this is some rough stuff here, man. Because yeah, you don't usually see spikes like that. But Mark, like I said, Mark is calm, cool, and collected. That's just how the man operates. Um, but yeah, so he spikes him. But now that Mark has the body, Steven's inside the mine, and Steven's like, "Yo, bro, I don't like this. You better stop." And he's like, "Well, I'm sorry because I'm
Psych.
driving now. I'm
I'm here
driving
now.
now." Yeah,
Yep.
100%. And they just bicker back and forth, and then he breaks a mirror, and then Conchu shows up, and Conchu's again another dick. I thought you said you could handle him. This wasn't part of the deal. Wow, you're so ungrateful, bro. I brought you back to life, and you're not even doing what I want. And the thing is, like, the camera's spinning, and he keeps appearing behind him. Like, he's
Yeah.
on the building over there, and then he's right behind him, and then he's there. And they're like, "Don't worry, we'll get the scarab," because Harrow ends up grabbing the scarab because it falls out of Layla's pocket. So like, fuck, he must be going to Egypt to go over there. Well, how the hell are we gonna get to Egypt? And Contra just kind of like waves,
Hmm.
and
Passes the
he's
sky. That was fire, bro. That was so awesome. That was
yeah,
dope
it
as hell.
was.
Oh
And
man.
you just see Steven sitting there drinking a bottle of booze, and he opens the window, and it's the Great Pyramids there in Egypt. Seemingly overnight. As somebody who did a second watch of this, when he's sitting there, he's sitting there fine with a bottle of liquor in his hand. But there's a mirror pointing at him. The mirror is broken.
Hmm.
His reflection in the mirror has bloody fists,
Mm.
but he doesn't have bloody fists.
Right.
Yeah, that's so like what it's like this weird meta shit of like Steven trying to break out or whatever, or maybe even Jake, who the hell even knows. But really, really cool stuff there. And again, I'm like, we're going to Egypt? Like we going places? But then you
Hmm.
kind of understand why this doesn't really have effects on the grand
Scheme of
MCU,
things.
because yeah.
Yeah.
Um Arthur Harrow successfully finds the place where Amit's tomb is buried. Uh but then he finds out Mark Spector is there, so he's like, "Oh shit!" Mark Spector arrives there, and Layla follows him, upset that he departed without any warning. Spectre finds some of the disciples of Amet in Cairo, and although Stephen Grant tries to prevent Spectre from killing anyone, all the disciples get killed, while both Spectre and Grant claim they did not do anything. Favorite part of this scene is that guy who licks the knife and then gets punched in the face. He does like a fancy lick and then
You're like, whoop
right,
out.
right in the head.
Shut up.
Spectre realizes that he has no leads on Harrow or Amet's tomb, so Khonshu makes a decision to call for the trial of the gods. Call all his homies up so the Ennead would judge Harrow. Osiris, Horus, Isis, Tefnut, and Hathor gather at the chamber of the gods inside the Great Pyramid of Giza to judge Harrow, as Khonshu accuses him of trying to resurrect Ammit and bring devastation upon Earth. Two things. One, I don't think we would have gotten all these Egyptian gods if the director was an Egyptian. You know, he's actually educating us on
That's true. True
other
that.
stuff now. So I thought that was pretty cool. Second thing is, Khonshu is the worst. He reminded me of the Punisher in Trial. I'm the big bad Punisher, me. Like just getting himself in trouble just by yelling and not being able to fucking hold it together. Because he calls upon this big court case, right? And what does he tell um Mark or Steven? Like, I'm doing this, but we got to be very careful because if we don't come correct, they'll trap me and whatever. And then he doesn't come correct. He just flips out and just starts screaming at everyone. And then they're like, Harrow's innocent. So, don't even worry about that. Um, they decide that they're gonna go to a sarcophagus that was sold in the black market to get to find because it also has a recording of where Amit's tomb is. So they end up meeting this guy, Anton Mogart, who has a sarcophagus in his possession. He's just like a rich guy who likes to ride horses and throw spears and shit at people.
Hmm.
Sadly, that actor passed away. Were you familiar with that piece of news?
I was after the fact.
I think even the episode is dedicated to him. He died in a skiing accident, very, very young, unfortunate. Um, but yeah, this is like a really fancy man. And this is the first time that we start seeing that Steven knows stuff, right? Because Steven's like, oh, you just fold this and then you move it around and you can see the stars and all that kind of stuff there. Um, and then yeah, they're like him and Layla are trying to. Well, there's a cool moment where they decide they're just gonna they figured out these guys are here up for no good. So Mark gives the body to Mark turns into Moon Knight and he does battle with these people. And then Steven wants the body, so he gives it up to Steven, and Steven gets impaled by a bunch of
But
spears. He's
yeah,
like,
oh
"Oh,
my
take
god.
it back!" He takes Mark takes it back.
Yep.
So cool, bro. So cool. And again, it does like some of these stuff doesn't make sense, but it doesn't need to. It's so
Right.
the rule of cool. Like he jumps and his cape makes the moon
The moon,
symbol. And
yeah, moon symbol
it's
has
like
the crescent. Yeah, that was fire. I was
so
like, oh,
cool.
let's go. Nice.
So cool. So yeah, all of a sudden, Stephen Grant knows everything. He's able to map out the constellations, and it's supposed to point to Emmett's tomb. However, the star's positioning is what they were the day, like the time she was buried. So they need to know what the sky looked like at that time. And Constant's like, don't even worry about it. I'm gonna reverse the whole
Bro, I popped so
time.
hard for that. I was
He
like,
moved the universe.
oh,
What did he
he
do?
broke the sky.
What did he do? And he's doing it like if he's swiping left and right on Tinder. Like it's just a hand, and they're doing it together in
Yeah.
this moment or whatever. But and I like that Harold's like, oh, he's getting desperate. Like this man just he
Hmm.
just shifted the whole thing. And even when he called upon the Ennead, he blocked out the sun. He's like, I'll do something that they can't ignore. And he blocks out the sun, and they're all like, "What do you want, Conchu?" And that's, And now they're like, "Well, bro, you disobeyed, and now you have to get trapped
This is statue.
in the statue." Um, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, they're going to trap me in the statue. So tell Mark to free me when you get when you get a chance. Tell Mark to free me." Which I always thought was a weird thing to say because of course, like Steven still knows who Conchu is at least a little bit. But it was like leave this message for somebody else. Like Steven can save you, bro. But he's like, yo, tell Mark. Mark will save you. With Steven's help, Conchu, yeah, so he turns back the sky. Um, oh yeah, and then Harrow has like this moment where he like talk. They trap him in his upshati, upshati, and they bring it to Harrow, and Harrow just like has a conversation with this like if he was like it was an ex boyfriend or something, right? Like you abused me and you used me, but look at me now. I don't need you, and I'm about to be the most
And my
powerful guy.
stick, and my
Yeah,
magic cane.
and I'm like, wow, that guy, you would think he was above that level of pettiness, but he's not.
Uh-huh.
He's still very hurt by whatever the fuck Khonshu did to him. Stephen Grant finds the tomb, but like I said, now he lost Khonshu, which also means he lost his Moon Knight powers.
Hmm.
So he's passed out. The disciples of Amit try to attack Layla. Layla gets them all in the dark, in the desert with like flares and shit. Like she's so cool. And so she takes them all on. Um, and he wakes up, and they both continue their journey to the desert. They're having like a heart to heart in the conversation in the car, and Steven's like, yeah, Mark told me about all this, and we're done with all this, and once we're done with this, Mark will disappear. And Layla's like, oh, so you guys are just making decisions without me? Like I'm the wife or whatever. And Steven's like, well, he's apologizing for him. He's about like, I would have gotten a lot further in any of my relationships if I could have just pretended it was somebody else and then apologized for that person after the fact. No, that was Matt. So I'm telling you, Matt did that. I'm so sorry, babe. I'd never do that to you. Grant and Layla find a dig site where Arthur Harrow and his men are inside and they prepare to enter. There's a weird like zombie moment, which I thought was kind of crazy. Uh, priests that were entombed to protect those who had been mummified. They came to life and they're like clicking because they didn't have any tongues. Very scary stuff. They're just like doing autopsies, like living autopsies, right? Wasn't that guy alive? Wasn't that one of Harrow's men? He like cut open or
Dude,
something. Yeah, it's very freaky stuff.
yeah.
And then he tries to get on Layla, and Layla sticks the flare in his mouth. Like I thought she might be gone.
Yeah, I almost thought she was gone there too.
Really, really cool stuff. But yeah, she manages to kill him. Stephen finds the tomb himself, and Spectre tells him that he would be surprised. That he was surprised. Mark's like, "Oh yeah, I'm surprised you told Layla the truth about everything." And he's like, "Why do you lie to her? She's your wife." And Mark's like, "Yeah, you're pretty right." We find the tomb of Alexander the Great, who was Amit's last avatar, and then he finds the Upshapti hidden inside his throat. I like that he's like, "I'm sorry, Mr. Great. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." Like he's
It's not
apologizing to the dead man.
reaching in.
Layla's approached by Harrow, who talks to her about her father. He's a real dick in this moment, right? He's like, "Yeah, Mark was there, bro. You didn't know Mark was there." He's like, "Mark was there, scarab. Isn't that what your dad used to call you before your Mark killed him?" And so Layla goes up to Mark and it's like, "What happened to my dad?" And he's like, "Yo, it was my partner. He wilded out. He killed them, and then I tried to stop him. He basically killed me." And that's his origin story. His origin
Huh?
story is 100% that he was a mercenary. They were on a dig site, and his partner went out of control. His partner's name is Raoul Bushman. He went out of control and he capped everybody that was there, even though they weren't supposed to kill anyone. And so Mark goes to defend somebody and he gets shot. And then Mark crawls to as far as he can get and eventually ends up in front of the statue of Khonshu and he dies. And he wakes up. This is all in the comics. He wakes up and he sees Khonshu there and he sees there's a cloak on him. And he grabs the cloak and he's like, "That guy brought me back to life. And now I'm beholden to all of his will." Now, in this show, when they do it from Mark's perspective. But to everyone else in the Marvel universe, Mark is just crazy.
Uh-huh.
Khonshu isn't real. No one brought him back. You understand what I'm saying? Now you kind of get a little bit of context to how he's portrayed in the comics, because not only does he have a split personality or dissociative identity disorder, but he's also no one else has seen Khonshu to prove the things that he's.
Yeah, if he's real.
Same thing with the Jackal. Like, so to most people, Mark died and then woke up and was like, "Yeah, I work for him now." And people are like, "What?" But he. What do you think about Layla saying that Mark was with her because he was felt guilty about it? You think that's true? That
Hmm.
Mark felt guilty about killing her pops, and that's why he decided to
I mean,
meet
that's a lot
her,
of
date
trouble.
her. I think
That's
he
a lot
really
of
dug
trouble.
her. I
Yeah,
think
I
he
think he
really
really
dug
dug her.
her. I'm not to say that there isn't any guilt, in Mark's life, but hell. Harold and his disciples then enter the chamber, and while Layla hides, Mark attacks the disciples to buy her some time. But he still ain't got no powers though. So um, Mark fights the disciples, but Harold then just shoots him in the heart. And Layla
Not in
watches
the
in horror.
chest.
Harold solemnly remarks that he cannot save Spectre if he refuses to save himself, and shoots him a second time, and his body falls into the water. Suddenly, Mark wakes up at the Putnam Psychiatric Hospital, where he, Layla, Crowley, that gold guy, Donna, the chick that he asked out on the steak dinner, they're all patients. And Harrow, of all people, is his therapist.
Hmm.
While being sedated, Mark gets brought into Harrow's office where he examines Spectre's favorite movie, Tomb Buster, with Dr. Stephen Grant as the protagonist. Are things now clicking in your head in this moment?
Yes, yes, it is. I'm like,
So
no. I'm like, no, what's
so
happening again? I'm starting to feel, I don't like this feeling. I felt this feeling in episode 2.
so
I'm starting to feel crazy again.
the the Lemire comic that we were talking about actually starts this way. It starts with him in the hospital, and everyone's talking to him. You know, what's his face is talking to him. It's not Harrow, it's Amit. It's the actual Amit. Is in Harrow's position, and is like, you've never not been here. You've been here since you were a kid. Moon Knight was a character you drew, came up with here, and now you think that he's real. And all this other stuff you talk about, this Stephen Grant and all this stuff. I thought we were getting better, but I guess we're gonna have to up your meds. So that's happened in the comic. So what I wanted to ask you was there any moment in this where you might have thought that all of this was in his head? Like all of this was in his head.
Dude, I didn't even like what's. I'm like, no, this can't be. No, I felt that's what I'm saying. Like, at that point, I was like, nah, we're not doing this again. Don't make me feel this way, dude. I felt helpless.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell is going on?
I think another reveal that they do in this, it's a mini reveal in the sense that if you have no context with the character, that would be the only way it could be a reveal. But I still think that they did it, and it kind of was a bit of a rewarding reveal that we'll get eventually. I think in the next episode even, because one could one wouldn't blame somebody if they saw this first episode, and second episode, and third episode, and assumed that Mark was Steven's alternate personality. You
Uh-huh.
get it?
Right, right, right.
That Stevens lived this life, and on occasion he blacks out, becomes this
It becomes
Mark,
Mark. Yeah.
does these things, and then goes back to being Steven. Um, were you on that boat at any time, or did you know this entire time that it was
I was
Mark
starting to
driving
get
the
on the
car
boat.
and
No, I was
Steven?
starting to get on the boat.
You started to think that Mark was
I
the
at
alter?
one point I was already on the boat, but it's the little things that kept reminding me, like the passport and stuff like that, the bag that he found. So I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't know, but then I was already on board. So when I found out, I just felt kind of crushed too. Like,
yeah.
ah,
And that review only works if you do this show exactly this way. If you
right.
do it primarily as Steven, which, like, again, like, it's just a genius puzzle that they put together, and all the pieces are there. When you go back and watch it, it's all there. Um, so although Harrow claims that he's trying to help Spectre, he remembers that he was shot by Harrow and realizes that none of this is real. Spectre then tries to escape from the hallucinations, and suddenly bumps into somebody, Stephen Grant.
Yeah.
And they both try to escape, but when they get to the end of the hallway, they are approached by a Egyptian hippopotamus. And that's how
Hippopotamus.
I love that video.
Hippopotamus.
And yeah, this I damn near giggled at the end of this episode because I said this is the show I wanted this to be, where they're not explaining, like, there's a hippo. You'll find out next time. Understand? Like,
Next week.
yeah, we don't got nothing to tell you. There's a hippo. What do you care? And last week we moved the stars. Like, what are you having a hard problem understanding? Um, Startled by this hippo that is named Toweret. Toweret.
Yes.
Mark Spector finds himself back at Harrow's office at the Putnam Psychiatric Hospital. Harrow keeps trying to convince Spectre that his superhero alter ego was just a figment of his imagination, created to shelter Spectre from traumatizing memories. Because of Spectre's violent episode, Harrow calls for Bobby and Billy, the same cops that arrested him, to now they're his orderlies, and they basically drug him. He wakes back up with Steven and Toweret, and the latter is explaining to Spectre that he's dead. And now he's in the afterlife, the Egyptian afterlife called the Duat. What I liked about this is that she mentions the ancestral plane.
Yeah, I
It's
told
so
that
pretty.
popped the room for a few of us.
Yeah, because we live in a world where all of our religions kind of sit, they
Right,
all
right,
puzzle
right.
pieces that sit with amongst each other. It would be weird if MCU put a definitive foot on the ground and was like, no, the Norse are the only gods, or no,
Right.
these guys are the only gods. They're
And she
all,
said the ancestral plane is beautiful,
yeah,
by the way.
yeah. So we're led to believe that we're led to believe that
We
these,
agree because we've seen it before.
oh, it's gorgeous. We're led to believe that the afterlife is just like a weird pocket dimension that then um it appears to you what your faith is, what you want it to be, what that kind of stuff. So I thought that was pretty interesting because I guess it lets them have their cake and eat it too, you know.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm assuming Odin went to Valhalla at the end of Ragnarok, or in Ragnarok, right? So we have
Right.
a Valhalla, we have a do we at we have, oh, the Field of Reeds, we have the ancestral plane, really really cool stuff. Um, do we at They find themselves on the boat, and she puts the hearts of Spectre and Grant on the scales of justice so they can be judged whether they can enter the Field of Reeds or not. However, the scales are not balanced, which means that Stephen and Mark, their hearts are incomplete. So she tells them to take a deep dive in their memories and find the truth, otherwise, their souls will be destroyed. Exploring their memories in the hospital, they come across a room full of dead people whom Spectre recognizes as criminals he killed by Khonshu's orders.
I knew right off the bat.
Yeah?
I knew right off the bat. As soon as I saw all those people sitting at the table and they were all dead, I was like, oh man, here we go.
But the funny thing is, there was this
Like,
weird thing. As I'm talking
we
to you
finna
now,
find out everything.
yeah, as I'm talking to you now, I'm starting to realize they did this very weird thing where it was like Mark was the boyfriend who had a bunch of secrets,
Uh-huh.
and Steven's asking to go
And
through the
Steven's
phone.
trying to find out.
Yeah, but like no, but like also show me and explain this, because it's
Uh-huh.
not he's not just finding it out on his own. They
Yeah.
go to this room full of people, and there's a child in the room, and he goes, What's this? Like, what's this about? Like,
In
hello,
a
what
room full
the?
of dead people. What's
Yeah, and it turns out that was their brother Randall.
Mhm.
And we find out that Randall was killed when the Spectre brothers went to go play in a cave, trying to reenact a scene from Tomb Busters, because the cave got flooded, um, and Randall drowned. And we end up seeing that the mother blamed Mark for Randall's death, and basically grew to hate him. Stopped going to his birthday parties. Just
Mhm.
really fucking. It's really
Picking on
it's really
him.
rough stuff. It's rough all around. Um, One of the things I thought was going to be revealed, because as they're going through this moment of the caves, they step on bird bones. Do
Uh-huh.
you remember that?
Uh-huh.
I'm like, you know what can cause a flood? A little bit of wind, right? A
Oh,
little bit of
stop it.
wind. Like, how long has Conchu been
Right,
looking
right.
for
Like,
a
yeah.
host? And would he think that he could cause a traumatic event that can? That's where my money's going till next season. If it's not revealed next season, I'll drop it. But it seems like it's right there, man. What did you think about seeing this backstory of Wendy, Mark's mother, just completely going 180 after
I thought it was good to
Randall?
finally get answers and stuff. However, I didn't think. Well, I didn't think it was gonna lead to the reveal
Yeah,
as it did. You know, and I thought the
yeah,
lead into the reveal was freaking perfect because he
yeah.
was telling.
Because
Because you thought you would think all the stuff that he was hiding and telling him not to go through was was just those main, like the stuff with his mom, his brother dying. You would think that would be it. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And then after all that happens, you're wondering like what other major thing, and then he goes into the room.
it's almost like one of those things. I love doing this podcast, by the way, because only times when we speak and we hear each other's opinions can we form other ideas. Because now you having me think to myself that, like, you're right. We already had enough tragedy for a tragic character. We already had enough tragedy for a tragic character prior to the death of his brother. You put the death of his brother on top of all that, and instantly, your heart breaks. Um, you have children or child, a very very
Uh-huh.
beautiful daughter. Could you see this level of hatred towards a child? Could you see?
Of course not.
I don't know. I have no frame of reference. I have no children, but
Right, right.
and I get not having something to blame, someone to blame when things like that happen. When you have a
Hmm.
loss is hard. But this felt a bit much. I'm not saying I know what the actual response should have been to this, but I know that this probably shouldn't have been it. Missing whole birthdays probably shouldn't have been it.
Uh-huh. Right.
Um, but one of the other things is that he keeps telling him that Steven keeps telling Mark this is not how he remembers the mother. Like, I don't get it. Why is she being so mean? I don't understand. Um,
Uh-huh.
and Spectre's like, we gotta. He doesn't want to see none of this stuff. Like, he's being more and more adamant, like, don't
Yeah.
go up there, don't walk over there, don't none of this stuff. Um, we see a memory of the raid on the dig site, basically the origin, where Spectre is shot and he's crawling to Khonshu's temple, and basically Khonshu's like, "What a waste," because he goes to kill himself, right? He goes to shoot himself in the mouth, and he's like,
Yeah.
"What a waste." And he's like, "Come, do my bidding, be my moon knight." And the music swells, and he like grows, and it's
Yeah,
really
he
cool.
just
It's a really cool moment. And he puts the
yeah.
suit on, and Khonshu's right behind him, and the moon's right behind them. It's a really, really cool moment. And he agrees to punish people on behalf of Khonshu. Mark and Steven then return to the boat as the souls are being judged and condemned before their time. We see the souls are dropping from the sky. So you're like, oh my God, no, Harrow must have done the thing with, Amit, because her whole thing is about judging you before you've done anything, you know. Um,
Uh-huh.
Turns out they can't bring Spectre back to the realm of the living as his body is mortally wounded, so he has no choice but to ask Taweret to get a message to Layla to free Khonshu, as they had no other option. She reluctantly turns her boat back to the gates of Osiris, while Spectre and Grant rush to the hospital to balance the scales. Spectre does not want to relive his memories and returns to Harrow's office, as he wonders if Spectre created Grant to hide from the pain, or Grant created Spectre to punish the world for what his mother did to him. Which I thought it was a cool line. Did you create,
Yeah.
did you create Steven to hide from the pain, or did Steven create Mark to punish the world for what his mother did to him? Because that both of those things work. And I think he was touching on something that we will get to in a second.
Uh-huh.
But what I wanted to say was there's a very heartbreaking moment right here, because he says something like, we have to go through these memories, Mark. We have to. Mark's like, no, I don't want to. And he says, if we don't go through these memories and Layla dies, it's all your fault. And he says it's all your fault. Those are the same exact words his mother said to him. And when he says those words, Mark just starts violently hitting himself
Yeah, he just
and flip
yeah, he's just wigging out.
flipping out in a way that we've never seen before. He's the calm, cool, collected one. He's like, no, no, you can't make me. I don't want to do it. I don't. And that's when he flashes back to Harrow's office, and he has like a bloody nose and stuff like that. And he's like, what the hell's going
Uh-huh.
on? He's just confused again. But what a heartbreaking moment! Like that's the lengths in which he's willing to bury all this deep down. That he's willing to hurt himself so as to not go through it again. Um, we see Mark hide in his bedroom from his mother, and we literally see that his mother is about to come and just abuse him for the sake of abusing him. And right then and there, without any, without any flare, smoke, or mirrors, Mark transforms into Steven. This altar um just appears itself, and he basically just bases Steven on Randall and Stephen Grant from that movie. And
In the movie.
he has the
And he
what you call
finds
it, the
out
accent and all that stuff. Yeah. And that's when he finds out that he's not the person we've been following this entire time, is a figment of
it's not
Mark
real. Yep.
Spector's imagination for the most part. And what a reveal. But also, I have an issue with this logic, and it's not an issue. When I say it's an issue, I don't mean like it's an issue and they messed up. I mean that this is an issue, and I think they left breadcrumbs, because,
Uh-huh.
and maybe I'm getting this wrong, but I'll talk you through it. Steven was created by Mark. Why, in your opinion? It's not like a yes or no and you're right or wrong kind of thing.
Uh, just to get away from all the,
For
of course,
the trauma of it all, right?
the trauma,
But the way that
all
they
the
make it
abuse and stuff.
seem, the way that they make it seem is that he turned into Steven right before the abuse, right? Which
Uh-huh.
would make one think that Steven would then remember all that abuse, right? Unless somebody else was getting the beatings. Unless it wasn't Mark getting beat and it wasn't Steven getting beat, because Steven can't remember his mom as an abuser. And Mark
That's true.
found a way to close all that behind him. We're
Uh-huh.
seeing her come towards Steven with the belt.
Uh-huh.
Is there a possibility that Steven manifested his
That the
own
switch was a switch
created
to
his
get,
own
yeah,
shelter so that somebody would be the literal punching bag of the three? Somebody would be the living embodiment of all that abuse, anger, violence, and grow up to being kind of person that could
uh-huh.
kill people without
Right,
even really caring
right.
about it. What do you think about that logic? That's my headcanon. All of this could end up being proven to be false, but I believe that Mark or Steven subconsciously created Jake to be the one to take the beatings. That Jake was the one to get the violence. Jake was the one, which is why they're both like, we would never kill, but Jake seemingly has no problem and has killed people. I think in every episode. I'm almost
Uh-huh.
assuming it got to a point where every episode Jake's been killing people. And wouldn't he be the living embodiment of violence if all he ever
That
knew was
especially if
violence?
country needs it.
100%.
Boom, boom.
And I think that that's what that is. And what a mind blowing revelation. What a mind blowing revelation that only comes from a place of tragedy. And from doing a little bit of history on dissociative identity disorder, majority of it does start off with childhood traumas, with your absolutely inability to deal with what you're going through at the moment, and your mind just fractures. It creates a whole nother reality, a persona, so that you can still live without crippling depression, tragedy, or any of that kind of stuff. It literally just snaps, it breaks. Um, so I think it's cool that there's somebody this entire time that's been cleaning up, and neither one the other ones have all thought the other guy was doing it, and there's
Uh-huh.
somebody out there that is really doing it, and not only really doing it, but seemingly again, like you said, down to do it,
Huh.
down to do it for who they're doing it for, and that's all very interesting. So, um, yeah, we already did that. He hit himself. Grant keeps disregarding what Spectre told him, insisting that his mother was alive and they talked to each other. But oh my god, I just read this and I almost fucking died, bro. Wait, let me see if I can find this. But for a second there, I was very confused about the idea that he couldn't remember his mother being violent. Like
Uh-huh.
you would think that kind of stuff would, I don't know, would be forefront in the mind and stuff like that. But I guess, um, yeah, I guess that's not the case. I also thought it was pretty interesting that in the comics, his mother passed away. I don't think his mother had any beef with him in the comics. His mother passes away, and um, Steven goes to the funeral. And I'm almost certain it was Steven. If not, it was Jake. But Steven goes to the funeral, and Steven's like, he's like, oh, he goes to the father, and he's like, oh yeah, you're Mark's father. I'm sorry, but Mark couldn't come. Like,
Uh-huh.
so he's like, yeah, Mark would have came if he could, but he couldn't. So, my fault about all that. And like detached because that's kind of what he's there for, right? So I thought that was I thought that they were gonna go that route with it, but instead they ended up going a completely different route. I am looking for a specific. Okay, hold on. Uh, who do you like better, Mark or Steven?
I don't know, man. It's hard, especially after the ending.
After after the whole thing. Oh, you're saying you might have a third.
Dun, dun,
You might
dun.
have a third favorite. Like I said, like some people were having an issue with.
I guess I like them both equally because they balance each other out.
Did you
And a
always like
lot
them
of
equally?
not at first because I was just taking them as they came. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that I felt like I was going crazy, I just needed to find out what the hell was happening before you know I caught some ground. And then when I did, I got grounded with all this craziness. I kind of do like them equally because they balance each other out, and it's a lot of the time it's funny too. So
I I love that he basically, he goes back. He's talking to Harrow, and Harrow's like, "Bro, like they brought you in here because you brought yourself in here. Like you're here because you brought yourself in here, and you brought yourself in here because your mom died." And he's like, "No, she didn't." And he's Harrow's like not knowing what to say. And for the first time, Steven starts to bug the fuck out, right? This is the first
uh
time we've
huh,
ever seen Steven, since all this has happened, kind of flip out. And he's like, "Oi, don't say that. That's not true. That's not true. Are you having a laugh? I don't want to
yeah,
hear it. Are you having a laugh? If you say that again, I will freak out. I promise." And then he goes, "Would you like to speak to her? Why don't we call her?" And all of a sudden, no, don't do that. Don't bother her. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that. And then, please don't do that. Don't bother her, please. And then he says, my mom is dead. And my fucking heart broke because he knew.
yeah. He
A
knew,
piece of him
he
knew.
knew, and he had the phone hanging out, waiting for him to take it too,
And when
bro.
he
I'm
did,
just
and
like,
when he
what you
does
gonna
pick it up,
do?
it's just the dial tone.
Yep.
And like my world came crashing down because I'm just like, what a like so much pain, you know.
Yeah, my feelings. I'm watching this. I'm like, oh my god.
um, and so they that I think then they actually end up showing the funeral. Where is the funeral? Yes. Stephen Grant sees the memory of Wendy's Shiva, his mother's funeral, which Mark refused to visit before breaking down and then switching to Stephen. Mark says that he could not face his father after everything he had done, but Stephen tells him that none of it was his fault. Um, there's another heartbreaking moment where he takes off his yarmulke
Uh huh.
and slams it to the ground, and then picks it up and puts it against his heart and apologizes for doing
Hmm.
it. As we've all, I think, struck out towards our faith when things don't line the fuck up. Like you told me, if I did all these things, that things would line the fuck up, and you get angry, man. You say some things you
Uh huh.
probably don't want to say, and all that happen. And again, just all of this so tragic. And then the idea that Steven could pep talk Mark about like none of this was your fault. I'm just like that's all the emotions, bro. All the emotions. Steven and Mark are brought back to the boat, and they're like, "Well, your skills are not balanced, which means you still can't go anywhere, and you guys have to get thrown off the boat and get taken by these like sand zombies." But Steven's like, "Nah, no, you know what? I'm about to start whooping some ass." So he starts whooping some ass. He manages to save Mark, but one of the souls causes Grant to fall overboard, and he freezes in the sands of the afterlife. Uh, his sacrifice, though, causes the scales to balance, and Mark enters the Fields of Dreams. And that was the second to last episode. Um, I knew it wasn't gonna stay that way. What were you thinking around with this time?
Of course not. How we gonna leave the field of reeds?
Get me out of this field, yo.
Hmm.
Um, beautiful scene though. It does like
Yeah.
kind of beautiful, like the ancestral plane, and even the stuff on the boat was all kind of weird and trippy and stuff. I thought all that stuff was cool. Like I said, this show knows how to make you feel disoriented in a way a lot of shows I don't think nail. We've dealt with a lot of unreliable narrators and some people with some mental health issues, but it's never been depicted this frantic and this, um, It's disassociative identity disorder, which means you're literally, you know, you're all over the place. And I feel that way when I watch this show, which that's a testament to them doing it this way. I also feel like this says a lot of important things about mental health. I think us as humans are always desperate for a way to cope. Desperate, you know what I'm saying? Like it's hard, man. Shit happens, and we don't. There's no easy answer as to how you're supposed to make yourself feel better, or what you're supposed to deal with next. Especially when it comes to loss, especially when it comes to family, any of that kind of stuff. And so you end up in a position where, um, you can start telling yourself stuff in your mind, and your mind is powerful. You know, depression is real, dissociative identity disorder is real, child abuse is real, all that stuff is real, and um like while we do have an actual factual mustache twirling purple, energy wielding villain, like the real villain is the traumas we face and are not
Mhm.
able to cope with and move past. And that to me was more important than any hippo or like I got when I'm feeling that message, like you see this episode and I go, how could anyone want anything else? You have to like this is the depth that I
The
wanted.
deep
This is
cuts.
yeah, this is the emotion that I wanted. That I want something that says something. The lasers and the outfits and the music is all freaking awesome. But what is it saying? And across this show, various people are telling Mark that he's broken, whether it's Conchu, Harrow, or any of those people. And I don't think he sees it that way anymore. And that's good because that means people are going to stop taking advantage of him. So we think. But at the tomb of Alexander the Great, Arthur Harrow collects Amit's Yubshapti from Mark Spector's dead body and leaves to complete the ritual. Mourning Spector's death, Layla disguises herself and follows Harrow and his followers. On their way to Giza, they get stopped by the Egyptian patrol agency, but Harrow's like, I got new powers, bro, and he just kills everyone. And then Layla prepares to attack Harrow, but the hippo uses her powers to make dead bodies come to life. It's like,
Speak to the dead.
Layla,
Oh my god.
Layla,
Leia.
stop. Mark wants to tell you something. I'm like, this is hilarious. Again, super dark, hilarious. You wouldn't see this in another show. You wouldn't see this with other heroes. So freaking good. Um, Towerette to stop her. Send. Oh yeah. So they're like, we need Khonshu's help. Harrow and his followers arrive at the Great Pyramid of Giza, making their way to the Chamber of the Gods, although the Ennead Council stands in their way. Despite their resistance, Harrow kills all of them, and he does it Jake style, like off screen, and you just see them all dead on the ground. And then he breaks the Ushapti and releases Amit from her imprisonment. I did not think we were gonna get a 15-foot tall or a 1,500-foot tall Egyptian god fight, but seemingly that's what we got. So fucking awesome because Harold's like, yeah, I'll totally die for you, and I was like, okay, hold on, bro, you're my avatar. Don't you ain't gotta even worry about it. But Layla frees Khonshu, and there's another thing. This entire time, Khonshu's been kind of like blackmailing Mark on some like, if you don't do what I'll tell you to do, then I'll just make Layla the next Moon Knight, and he's been basically doing whatever he says to make sure that doesn't happen. Um, and even now, Conchu's like, "So, are you ready to be
Yeah,
my
are you ready
avatar?"
now?
He's like, "No, man, I gotta you go find somebody else." So, Mark's in the field of reeds, and Hippo Lady's like, you complete now, bro. You're good." And he's like,
Go ahead.
yeah, but I don't kind of want to be here. I don't feel complete." And
It's
so
not right.
he turns his back on the field of reeds. It instantly becomes the sand ocean again. He goes and finds Steven trapped in the sand, and he apologizes and told him that he was never supposed to see any of this. He was supposed to have protected him. And he places his full heart into Steven's hands, and they both freeze. But then the gates of Osiris open, and the light frees them both, and they leave the Duyat. I hope I'm saying that right. Khonshu senses Spectre and grants presence in the world of the living and makes a new deal, healing their bodies and bringing Moon Knight back to life. I love that Steven's like, I'm part of this negotiation too now, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you none of this,
Yeah,
none of
throw it
this.
later around, right?
Yeah, he's like, we're both going to be doing this. And this is the beginning of the very fun 1 minute it's Mr. Knight, 1 minute it's Moon Knight kind of
Uh-huh,
stuff.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Really, really cool. And I guess I didn't realize after 4 or 5 episodes of so much infighting, how down I'd be for them just to be on the same fucking side. Like how
Mm-hmm.
down I'd be
Mm-hmm.
just to be on the
Hell
same
yeah.
fucking team. So when they're both ganging up with this moon god, I'm like, yeah, yeah, totally. Come bring your case in front of him. But what I like is that they're like, okay, we want to redefine our arrangement. You know, after Amit, we want you to free both of us. And he's like, yeah, yeah, I'll
Got you.
definitely free both of
Both
you.
of y'all.
You two right here, don't even worry
Y'all
about it.
done. Just
You're
don't
never
worry
gonna
about
see
it.
me again. Just go kill Amit for
It's
me, all right?
over.
Don't even worry about it. But I love that he goes, you wanna negotiate now in the middle of all this? And he goes, yeah. It sucks when people want to do that shit, right? Because basically he was dying, and Concha was like, serve me forever or die. You know, like literally put in the rock in the hard place position at the worst possible moment, and they just spun that shit all around him. Like, so you gonna do it now or nah? She's like, fine, fine. Don't worry about it. You two are free. Layla gets told by Salim that the only way to stop Amit is to imprison her inside the vulnerable human body instead of a Ushapti. Without any other option, Layla speaks to Tawaret and accepts her offer to become a temporary avatar. Tawaret grants her with ceremonial armor, and she becomes our Scarlet Scarab. Badass like an outfit.
Yeah,
She's
that was
badass in
fire.
it. And as I said earlier on, there's a line in this that wasn't they could have found a way to make it less Velveeta, to make it less craft, to make it less cheese. But
Right, right.
it's a poignant line anyway, because at one point she's out there and she's fighting in Egypt, and a little girl comes up to her and says, "Wow, are you an Egyptian superhero?" And she says, "Yes."
Yes, I am.
You know, there probably was a better way of saying that, but it doesn't
Nah,
really
you know what?
matter.
Why it was cool? Because it had badassery behind it.
Yes, and that's what I was gonna say.
It had hands behind it, and she had hands to begin with. So for her
Always,
to
yeah, she
get
was always killing it.
some juice and to have more hands is pretty.
And I already dig her because she didn't give Steven a bunch of shit. Like she
Yeah.
realized that something was literally going on, so she didn't fight him on that. And yeah, I thought she was gonna turn into a big hippo, but seeing her in just that garb, I thought was pretty cool. Got definitely Wonder Woman vibes, but again, actual Egyptian woman, actual,
Hmm. Hmm.
So I definitely don't blame the line, because after I sat and thought about it, I was like, wow, really, huh? Like we're getting down to that point, and I'm excited about it. Not for nothing, bro. America Chavez was the first Latina in the
Yeah,
MCU with superpowers. I mean, as a
sure was.
character, obviously Zoe Saldana stuff like that, but we don't
Right, right.
have like people think the depths go as far as they do. I'm starting to think that they put Captain Carter and Marie Rambeau on that team because when you look at the comics, it's just a bunch of white dudes.
Right.
It's literally just a bunch of white dudes. There's not a woman on the Illuminati. No girls allowed. I guess I don't know. But yeah, I thought she was a badass, like you said. Harrow unleashes his newly granted forces on Cairo because now he has all of her power,
Hmm.
and his followers are just walking around judging people, sending them to their death if need be. One of the people who is going around doing this is Mohammed Diab, the director. He's one of the people seen uh, using the scales. Um, Eventually, Harrow gets confronted by Moon Knight and Mr. Knight, while Khonshu battles Colossus about a colossal Amit. So you're having this Power Ranger fight going on in the background that no one else can see, and they're going at it. They're fighting on the pyramids. At one point, I think he has her trapped with the spear on the pyramid, leaning up against it. And I'm like, this is fucking crazy. And then there's a moment where um Mr. Knight does like a hallway fight thing. And he just goes down and just starts whooping a bunch of people, throwing knees and hitting them with his little billy club things. And then he goes and throws one at Harrow. Harrow hits it with
This
his
cane.
cane, and when it gets sent back, Mark grabs it
Mark,
as
yeah,
Moon
Mark
Knight, and
grabs
I'm
it.
just like,
Yeah.
this is great.
That was fire.
I was like, oh, I love this. All of this. Like I said, I get as some people could be like, wow, some of the episodes were a bit slow or some of them didn't have as much action as I thought it was. But I think as a package,
Yeah.
It made you pop for the littlest things because they made you earn it. It made you.
It's
He had to
definitely the
earn it.
payoffs there.
Definitely. So, uh, w- Amit's like, yo, bro, can't you? Come on, man. We could do this together. Come
You
on.
know what I'm
Let's just
saying?
do this. And he was like, nah, man. I give him a choice, and you take that choice away. So, joined by Layla, Stephen and Mark continue to fight Harrow and his disciple, but they fail. And Khonshu gets defeated by Amit, and all is lost. And then a blackout. And suddenly, Mark's on top of Harrow, seemingly ready to kill him, and
Right about the,
everybody
yeah,
else
you
is
see,
everybody
cane,
else is dead.
cane to the forehead.
And Layla's like, what the hell was that? And he's like, it wasn't me. And again, we're led to believe what the hell is going on. Um, and the thing is, like, whenever we see these are like horror scenes. Like people are like,
Mhm.
their arms are broken and it's just rivers of blood. Like, and he keeps saying he didn't do it. So Mark and Layla bring Harrow to the Chamber of the Gods and they recite an ancient spell. I don't know how Mark knew it, but they recite an ancient spell to trap Amit inside Harrow's body. Khonshu orders Spectre to kill Harrow, so both of them will no longer be a threat. But Spectre refuses, saying Khonshu is barely different from Amit. Upholding his part of the deal, Khonshu releases Stephen and Grant, Mark and Grant, and they find themselves at the psychiatric hospital with their version in their mind of Harrow. Although Harrow refuses to admit that what they said was true, Stephen and Grant, I keep saying that, Mark and Stephen notice blood on Harrow's footprints, saying that he doesn't know as much as he thinks. Mark and Stephen dismiss Harrow's diagnosis and choose to save the world. Like, you think you think we're broken, you think we're not good for nothing, but I think we can do some good, and I think we're gonna save some world. And they wake up back in Steven's apartment. I think the song plays again. I think
Mhm.
he's still chained to his thing, just showing that this is just an everlasting, always continuing, brilliant, beautiful piece of art. To be honest, um, and I'm there, and I'm like, I was kind of expecting something. As somebody who reads the comics, there's usually a third alter. His name is Jake Lockley. He's a cab driver, but whatever. They fed me a buffet with this. They gave me so much that I didn't think I was gonna get. That I'm really not gonna sit here and split hairs about them not giving me a third alter or Steven being British because he wasn't in the comics.
Uh-huh.
I, I as somebody who, I mean, the MCU has taken so many liberties with stuff, right?
Mhm.
I'm never one to quickly be like, oh, they changed this. I can't like it. So I'm like, whatever, bro. Like, you gave me all of this. You didn't give me Jake. It's fine.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you for this though. Thank you so much. Um, and so we get a mid credit scene. I'm like, oh, Moon Knight season
So
two.
the
What are we
funny
about
thing
to do?
about that, I
Did
was
you see
like,
it?
so credits roll, right?
Yeah,
I go, yo, press, get to the good part
yeah,
after the credits, I go, boom. So I go, oh, there's not 8 minutes of credits. There's something.
yeah,
So we go, and then that rolls.
yeah. We see Harrow. Uh, he's at a psychiatric hospital where he gets taken
Getting
out.
wheeled out.
He gets wheeled out by a Spanish speaking man. Um, but all of a sudden, you notice some dead hospital employees on their way, and Harrow is taken to a limo. Uh, I thought I know. As a matter of fact, I kind of also didn't know who was going to be in the limo. I was thinking maybe Steven and Mark, but I wasn't sure. But when he opens it, it's Conchu, and Conchu also has the Steven suit on. I think maybe he learned something. He's like, I don't like this. The
I know
wraps.
how to dress now.
Yeah, I don't need to look like a backwood anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and put on a suit. So um yeah, Harrow's taken into the limo. He meets Khonshu and he tells Khonshu, "Come on, bro. You can't hurt me. You can't do nothing without an avatar." And Khonshu tells Harrow that he had no intention of taking Layla as his next avatar, and um that Mark doesn't even know how broken he truly is. And then he literally introduces to Harrow and the audience Jake Lockley. And when Jake Lockley turns, it's Oscar Isaac, same face as Mark, same face as Steven, says something in Spanish. He has a cabbie's hat and a scarf, and he shoots Harold seemingly in the face for Khonshu and drives away. And then I knew that this was my favorite show.
Holy shit! Yep, holy shit on a stick moment.
Then all of a sudden I was like, again, I was already thanking them for not giving me that. And for everything else and not giving me that. Then they gave me that and they changed it to a way that I can't even predict it now. So
Mm-hmm.
all I could think of is I'm still thinking with my same logic sensors saying that um Jake has agreed to do this for Khonshu in the same way he has agreed to take the beatings. Great, like he's agreed to keep all the dirt off of their fingernails. He's agreed to keep them as innocent and as pure and as unknowing as he possibly can, and do what he probably feels like he was made to do. He was there to take and give beatings. It's the only thing he's good at. And I hope we'll be seeing some more of Jake Lockley soon. I've heard conflicting reports about whether or not we're getting a season 2.
Yeah, we
Uh,
better be getting a season 2.
I say we better be getting a season 2, and I also think like this can still remain an extremely interesting and thought-provoking show without any MCU cameos. But if you really want to start flipping the script with some shit, just start introducing some like like Happy Hogan or something like that. You understand? I want to see what Happy Hogan thinks of this guy, stuff like that. Like I want to see what a quote unquote run of the mill hero thinks of Moon Knight. And I think that some people were hoping for a Blade cameo. I think some people were hoping for a Werewolf by Night cameo. Werewolf by Night is going to be a
Nice
horror.
sons.
Yeah, it's going to be a horror. Or Werewolf by Night is going to be a horror special that they do this year, and it's the comic that Moon Knight actually appeared in. So people are thinking that maybe he might pop up in that next.
Ooh.
But what do you think? Do you think that the next thing Moon Knight pops in has to be Moon Knight?
Uh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Unless we see Mark walking down the street
yeah, Steven.
or Steven walking down the street.
Are you Wanda? I've heard the terrible news
Oh,
about your
witch!
children. Oh, witch, hippo, later gators. That's it. Um, yeah, I love Oscar Isaac in this role. I think he absolutely kills it. This is kind of what he was born to do. The scene in which he's sitting talking to Harrow and switching between voices. How genius was that? When
That
he's
was
talking with his
crazy.
British accent and then going back to Mark
And
and then
going
getting
back
back.
and forth, yeah.
So good, so crazy. Supposedly, there's like a longer scene of that
Oh
where
wow.
he like kills it, but the director had to cut it. Hopefully that comes out soon on stuff. But this is what happens when you get top tier actors with top tier source material. I always knew that this material would be rough on the uninitiated, the ones that are thinking about they're just watching Batman. Like this
Uh-huh.
is way trippier than that. This has way more. This could raise way more questions without giving answers than that. And if you don't have the patience to sit through something that's not going to answer every single question that you got, you may not like it all that much. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is some people's least favorite show. But as somebody who hates things constantly being spoon fed to them, I love this show. Thought, I think a weaker show would have had an episode that showed everything from Mark's perspective from after
Hmm.
episode 1, you know, to really hammer down, like, you see, this is what was going on when he was Mark, and this was going on when he was Steven. But instead, they're like, you know what it was? Go back and watch. Go back and watch, and you can see it from there. Really, really, really good stuff. That's all from my recap and review. I'm trying to think if I have anything else I want to say on the character. Like I said, um, I'm recommending this to everybody I know. Seeing some of the reactions from even the littlest stuff like the fish. What's going on with the fish? Oh, by the way, would you like to explain to the folks what happened with the fish,
He
or
got
what you
switched,
perceive?
man.
That's basically what happened.
He got
So,
switched, man.
I,
They
I
wouldn't notice.
either
I can appreciate. I can appreciate the try.
it was basically every sitcom where the parents go away and they throw a party and they break the one vase, right? And now they need to go find that vase and
I
replace
wouldn't
it
have noticed.
before
It
the
would take me
parents
like
come
four
home.
times after feeding the fish to notice.
I think that goes to show how much maybe perhaps both personalities were underestimating Steven. You know, he eventually figured it all out. But yeah, that goldfish thing, that was the beginning of me being like, and they're not gonna explain. Whoo! This made me feel good, make me feel smart. It reminds me of Breaking Bad in a lot of ways. Breaking Bad did a lot of showing and not telling, and it let your mind do the math, you know? And I think this does the same. But that's all the math we'll be doing today on Moon Knight. I like I said, I can't say enough good things about it. I freaking loved it. I loved everything
Yeah,
that
that was
it.
such a trip, man. I never had a they never made a show that made me feel so lost and like, but just kind of trying to be like sympathetic and
Between this, because the finale dropped the same week of Multiverse of Madness, and between this and Multiverse of Madness, it feels like Marvel's trying to put on their big boy pants,
right?
you know. And what's what's even more ironic about it is they can handle more adult level subject matter. You know why? Because they started about 10 years ago. So all the kids that started this MCU journey are now adults with trauma and problems and issues. So just as people, the fans of the MCU are maturing, it seems the MCU is also maturing to meet that level of seriousness. You know, just like dealing with a, I don't know, Hydra seemed like peanuts when we dealt with Thanos. Whatever we're about to deal with next in this multiverse with gods like Khonshu and witches like Wanda and all this kind of stuff is gonna blow everything we've seen thus far out of the water, and I'm super duper stoked for it. But you guys just got to remember to be on the same page with all of us as we go through and try to rate and review all this kind of stuff that we are watching as part of the Major Issues Podcast, which is available wherever podcasts are found. Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, TuneFind, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Just Google, literally Google Major Issues Podcast, and we'll be the first ones to pop right up because we're always talking about the newest, hottest, latest and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. Comicbookclick.com is also the one stop for all of our comic book click stuff. But the best part about it, merchandise made exclusively by moi. We got a Praise Khonshu shirt that's coming off the shelves at the moment. We did a Blue Moon inspired
Yeah.
Moon Knight, Blue Moon inspired Moon Knight shirt. Um, like I said, I love the shirt and it inspired me to make merch. So if you guys want to support us, but also get a piece of one of a kind merchandise, consider going to comicbookclick.com and hitting that shop CBC link. We get pennies on the dollar, but it doesn't really matter. It feels so cool to have those designs out and about. And I know that the people rocking them are the coolest people around. So keep supporting that way. Another way you can support us is becoming a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse. And as for as little as 10 cents a day, $3 a month. You can help us keep our lights on here and avoid the hardware and the software that we need to make content. We do all this content free of charge, but you know, something as small as, like I said, $3 a month could help us out so much with these Zoom fees when we need multiple people on, and you know, everything is behind a paywall now. Subscriptions for Adobe and all that kind of stuff. So we're working through some stuff with your help, but we could always use some more. So consider doing that. If you have no money to give us, that is absolutely fine. I will not shun you like Khonshu. All I'm
Yeah.
saying is rate and review us on iTunes. It's the quickest way for us to grow as podcasters and find out what you like and what you don't. Because I've been to the future. I moved all time and space to see what the
All the
stars
stuff.
look like. Can't do it again. If I do it again, they'll put me in a you whoop shop tea and then I'll be gone. So just believe me when I say I've been to the future. We do become the latest and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media, but I can't tell you how we do it. I'll break the timeline. I'll end up in a little stone statue, and nobody wants that. So make sure that you are liking, sharing, and subscribing, telling a friend to tell a friend, following us across all social media, facebook.com/comic book click, Instagram at comic book click. Use that hashtag comic book click to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books, comic book media. We'll be back next week. You know what we're doing next week? Men in Black comics. Yeah, Men in Black comics. Men in Black 2 turns 20 this year. And
Wow.
we'll be reviewing some Men in Black comics to see how far the movie strayed from their original source material. I've never read a lick of it, so it's time to find out what how it inspired the movie and how all that went. But we're still doing stuff across all of our social media. I'm still doing my CBC Reacts videos of Superman and Lois. So we're always doing content. Make sure that you're just choosing to be a part of the process by following us wherever we're at, because you'll get the news there first and foremost. But that's going to be the end of our episode today. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don.
I'm Claudius Maximus. Later, days.
And this has been our Moon Knight season 1, fingers crossed, recap and review. And remember, whether you're Mark, Steven, or Jake, whether you're Harrow, Layla, or a hippo, whether you're the Fist of Vengeance, whether you're the God of Judgment, or whether you're just a bunch of podcasters just trying to have a good time, remember, we are the click. And always remember that you, yes, you, are worthy.
Wait.